ChatGPT wrote an ending to my life. By now you probably know that this is my last story, and I hope this serves as a worthy explanation for why my page will have to be taken down, and as a warning for seeking the easy way out. No matter how innocent it may seem, it began with a hyperextended finger injury that I received from a day of golfing. Not from the act of swinging the club itself, but from chasing down a runaway golf cart that I improperly parked on the green. As you may have guessed, the last story posted to my channel was not written by me. I couldn't write anything up that week due to my finger, and I even had difficulty turning the doorknob to enter my cupboard apartment the morning before my story was posted. As I turned the doorknob with my awkward finger splint, I thought about the fact that anything could be on the other side of that door. Understand that I don't have a key to that particular door, as my studio is attached to a utility room where the water heater and lawnmower are kept. That door is to be kept unlocked at all times for the janitor, but I had a key to the door into my apartment hidden behind the furnace. That door I made sure to keep locked at all times, but I often thought about the unknown of that ultimate turn of the knob I made every day, whether returning from my job or coming back from the community dumpster. Even if I had only left the door unattended for 5 minutes, I always paused, the knob half turned, the door half cracked, before ripping it open the rest of the way to confront whatever stranger may be waiting, or, more likely, a buzzing furnace. As you have probably already guessed, this was the inspiration for my latest story. Too bad I couldn't operate a keyboard. I didn't even know how to carry out that story. The thought of what unnamed horror might find its way into my little crawl space, sliding through the door as I closed it behind me, and laying in wait for me to return, caused a fight, flight, or freeze in my mind that prevented any creative juices from flowing from there. Worse yet, I had difficulty picturing what horrible intruder might crawl in from the septic pump next to the leaky water heater, whose cover was always left slightly askew out of the janitor's negligence. To put these thoughts down on paper would only feed my neuroses, I realized, but I wanted to spend the day at the golf course, and I had my weekly story to write for my channel and was already way behind schedule. So I turned to ChatGPT, even with all my reservations for AI and my promise to my readers to only produce original stories without the aid of any intelligence but my own. But I had this new drone I wanted to try out, so I typed the following prompt into ChatGPT. A character discovers that an unknown stranger has entered his utility closet and has waited all day for him to return home. I thought the story would be spit out almost immediately, but an extended loading bar appeared on the screen, and I wasn't about to wait an hour for it to be ready. So I figured that I would collect the story when I returned home from the golf course and submit it to my channel then. So I gathered up my drone and golf clubs and drove 13 minutes down the road to the course. It was out of season, late in November, so there wasn't a single soul on the course when I fired up my drone and piloted it from the first hole to the 18th using the controls on my smartphone. When I was happy with most of the footage I had recorded, I decided to pack my drone away into my car and do some practice putting. With my injured hand, I could at least do that much, so I found the nearest hole and drove my first ball in. Then I sunk the next 3 that I had found in my bag. As soon as I had run out, feeling confident in my skills, even with my injury, I walked over to the hole and reached in with my good hand. But my fingers did not scratch with the balls or with the bottom of the cup. My hand kept reaching, and I got down on my knees to peer into the dark, bottomless hole. Frowning, I reached my arm all the way in, up to my shoulder, grappling with nothing but frigid empty air on the other side. Then I reached in with my other hand and was met with the same open-ended vacuum. I couldn't believe what I was experiencing, and without even thinking about vandalism, I began ripping away the moist pieces of dirt from the hole so that it was open enough for me to dangle my legs through. I thought I could possibly touch the bottom with my feet and stand upright against the dirt floor immediately underneath me, but my sneakers never touched the bottom. I went back to my car to get my drone. I didn't think that I would be able to fly it around down there, but the drone had a light on the front and I had a piece of rope in my truck, so I wrapped the cords around the plastic body and returned to the hole, only to find a stray dog poking its head down there. I shooed it away and it ran off, yelping and barking at some unseen master further down the green. I opened the app on my phone, tied the other end of the rope to my golf bag as an anchor, and dangled my drone down into the bowels from there. It continued to descend until I ran out of rope. Still, I hadn't touched the bottom. I was able to see through my app that the hole beneath was dark, endless, and riddled with speckles of dust flurrying past the spotlight. I moved my bag closer to the hole, bit by bit, but still no sign of the bottom, until the bag was right up against the hole. I didn't know what to do from there, so I closed the app and pocketed my phone, preparing to start pulling on the rope. But my sloppy knot on the bag slipped and I lost the drone to the hungry darkness below me, and I screamed out loud. I never heard the drone hit the bottom, and when I checked my app, there was no signal and I was completely disconnected from my expensive piece of plastic. Now all I wanted to do was put as many miles between me and the hole as I could. The cold winds blowing out of that vent in the ground cut through my clothes, and I thought I could hear a dog barking somewhere, not from the fields behind me, in the direction of the most recent dog's disappearance, but from the hole beneath my feet. An unwelcome image invaded my mind, of the crust of the earth crumbling away, to send me to the same place as my golf balls in the $1,800 drone. My phone dinged, and I saw that it was an alert from my own channel that my most recent story had dropped. I opened it to see that someone or something had submitted the ChatGPT story for me. At least I assumed it was the AI-written Creepypasta. After reading the title, I knew it was indeed the story inspired by the half-baked prompt I had fed to the AI app. It was titled, ChatGPT Wrote an Ending to My Life. And I spent the next 5 minutes walking back to my car with my bag, skimming the story, the same one that I just recorded to you here, beat for beat. I looked around, wondering who could be watching me, what surveillance camera could have been spying on me from the nearest lamppost. Somehow the writer of the story, seemingly AI, had observed everything, from the dog to the lost drone. And the story had somehow continued from there, from my extended pause by the trunk of my car, and I was too afraid to finish it. I exited out of the story on my blog channel and read the comments on the bottom. Someone had written, "Pretty good ending, but he should have tried the app one last time." Unsure what this could ever mean, I resisted the urge to finish the story and packed up my stuff into the trunk and drove home. Walking up to the apartment complex and circling around to the backyard to access the utility closet, I dropped my bag onto the concrete and reached for the doorknob with my injured hand. I stopped again with that same insatiable fear of what could be waiting on the other side. For some reason I saw the snarling jowls of a dog in my mind's eye, and I dropped my hand to my side. It was at that moment that I knew how the story ended, and I summoned the courage to open the story on my own blog and read the ending. Here the main character stood, at the door into the utility closet, trembling and hesitating as I currently was, and listening to the deep inner growl on the other side of the door, wondering if it was the furnace or something else, something forbidden and unholy. And then he finally opened the door and saw something unimaginable, which was only visible for a brief blink of the eye, which was a distorted, frenzied jumble and sloppy edit cut of fur, teeth, whirring drone blades, and worst of all, duplicates of the main character's own hands, complete with the bright blue finger splint, before those cold, familiar fingers wrapped around his own throat. And that was how the story ended. I thought I could hear that growl on the other side, and it did sound like a noise like a furnace might make, but somehow different, like a rolling gurgle full of saliva on an endless loop. I decided to take the commenter's advice and open the app, and I did indeed connect with the drone, and the picture that flickered into focus on my screen was a dimly lit postage stamp image of the other side of the utility door. There was no sound to accompany the image, but it seemed to bob up and down ever so slightly, and when I pressed my ear to the door, I thought I could hear another noise. Could it be the buzz of the drone's blades? I checked my phone again, but the image never changed, only bobbed up and down, and I even tried to take control of the drone using the buttons on my app, but I could not override whatever new operations it was following. Again, I reached for the doorknob, but the growling increased and my heart was pounding, my vision clouding. I then remembered the sump pump in the ground and the unfastened cover. I cursed the janitor for allowing that connection between my apartment and the golf course to be established so easily. This anger almost pushed me to barge through the door into my apartment so I could get the proper phone number to shout my complaints of contempt. What was the worst that could happen? Attacked by a stray drone? Returned and refurbished from hell to scalp me? I even armed myself with my heaviest driver and returned to the door, ready to yank it open and press my back to the wall, using the door as a shield to protect myself if I had to. I would allow the flying machine to charge out into the air, and I would prepare to swing and throw the club before retreating into the safety of the closet, slamming the door behind me. But I still couldn't begin to wrap my good fingers around that cold knob. The camera was bobbing more vigorously now, as if in fast forward. I couldn't even manage to turn the piece of brass. I retreated, ran even, to sleep in my car for the night, eyes glued to my phone screen until my battery died. I thought that I would eventually see the door open as the janitor returned to grab the shovel or a bucket of paint. But the door never opened, and the camera in its blurry spotlight continued to stare fixedly at space, at no one and nothing. And still I sit here in my reclined seat with no way to charge my dead phone and my sights set on the front of the apartment, waiting for the flash of sirens or the scream of a neighbor to clue me into the resolution to my story. All I want to know is that it's over, but not over for me, at least not quite yet. And as the streetlights flash on and the sun sets, I hope to see it rise tomorrow. And when I close my eyes, I hope I won't see those canine teeth gleaming in the dark or hear that growl, interlaced with that droning whir, strangely reminiscent of the bump and rattle of a hot, glowing, everyday furnace, just out of sight, on the other side of your warm bedroom wall, forever forgotten and unattended.